speaking of teachers, though, in addition to Dom, you also had another amazing one, Jim Chapin. Can you tell us about how you met him and how that came to be with the lessons with Jim?
Well, one of the first times I met Jim was in a music store back in Germany. So I would go into the store and somebody would say, "Oh, here's Jim Chapin in the corner with his pad." And I say, and of course I had heard of Jim before. But I go, "What? That's Jim Chapin." Okay, so I would go there, and of course he would have the usual bunch of people around him, and he would show his little Moeller thing and his independent stuff, and talk to people, drums, wherever and as much as he could, because that was his true passion. That was number one priority in his life. And then later on, he happened to be working at another school where I was teaching around that time, and I was the person to take care of him. So I was pretty much responsible for the drum department back there. And
where was that, Klaus?
Oh, that was back in Germany back in these days. I mean, we're talking like early 90s, 91, 92.
Okay.
Somewhere there. And pretty soon after that, Jim kept calling me saying, "You remember me? I spent a week at your school, and I'd like to come back, and so maybe you can organize some work for me." So I said, "Jim, it's beautiful. Of course I'll do that. So when are you planning to come back? Like in 6 months or so?" And he would say, "Next week." I said, "Oh, what?"
Right. No pressure.
But that was usually the way how to say administrative stuff was happening. Like with Jim, it was a little bit sort of an organized chaos. Everything in free fall. But yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So obviously, one of the things that you are most well known for, and I saw you on a Drumeo lesson about a year maybe ago, is obviously the Moeller method, where you learned that from Jim. Can you tell us about what you learned from him and how you teach others the Moeller method?
Well, how I learned from Jim was actually a twofold experience. It was of course taking like formal lessons with him. So you would decide a time, and we're both in the same room, and Jim is showing you something, and you try to follow. That's setting number one. Setting number two was when I was organizing work for him, which sometimes included several days or like 10 days or 2 weeks of work for him throughout Europe sometimes. Many times the people would request I stay in the room and help translating, because most of the time their English was not too good.
Sure.
So I learned such a lot of stuff by watching Jim teaching, and not being like in that crossfire of you being the victim and the teacher, but you would watch how Jim would sort of take care of the challenges that the student had.
Yeah.
So after a couple of weeks and after a couple of years, then later I should say, of that procedure, you would find out, okay, here's this guy, he's obviously doing something strange, so how is Jim reacting? And you would take a guess, what exercise is he coming up with, or what is he giving this guy? And that was even more incredible in learning the system and the method as he fine-tuned it from Moeller, as having lessons from the master himself.
What an incredible way to learn the Moeller method, by seeing Jim teaching others, and that you could adjust and adapt your own playing with that. That's pretty incredible. I don't know if you're able to, Klaus, and I don't know if Dom is still there with you, but are you able to possibly give us a demonstration, an example of the Moeller method as Jim taught you?
One of the important things that get lost at times was that Moeller's and Chapin's take on the subject of up and down strokes was different, as opposed to how people in the tradition of say George Lawrence Stone or Joe Morello would understand that.
Yes.
Because in that in that perception of full stroke and half stroke and low stroke, it's pretty much the stick that dictates what kind of stroke it is. Like the full stroke position, the tip of the stick is here, and that makes it a full stroke, or this makes a half stroke, or this makes a low stroke. Now, what is jumping forward? If Jim would show you something like that at a moderate tempo, he would say down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But if I stop after the down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, you would wonder, boy, could that be a downstroke really in terms of watching the stick height? So there's something strange going on. But the important lesson for Jim was, and he also made notes with that, and I still have some of them, saying the ups and downs indicate the direction the hand is traveling at the time of the hit, and not the stick.
Not the stick.
So if I do that for you, and I say down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and you watch my hand, that perfectly fits.
Yes.
But still, there's reaction to the stick, and they had another word for that. Today we would say, well, it's the power of rebound, or the force of rebound.
Yeah.
But Moeller and Chapin would call it the flybacks.
The flybacks.
Flybacks, and I mean, some people who also happened to receive some of the copies that Jim was always traveling with, they might have read this expression, but the flybacks really refer to the tips of the stick, and that's how your stick flies back. So saying that, a big misconception, I should say, is when people try to play and to practice Moeller like this.
Yeah.
Holding the stick down, not allowing for the flyback, because as an effect, or they think the tip of the stick is still dictating if it's up or down, but they don't think about these different perceptions. In that one case, the stick is like dictating.
Yes.
In the other case, with Moeller, it's the hand
Yes.
that dictates the up and down. So that's just in a nutshell a very important thing that I guess is vital about Moeller technique.